All right, looks like we're ready to start here. So again, thank you all so much for your time today. My name is Andrew Albers. I'm an account executive here with TDI, and I'm going to be your host for today's webinar. Today, we're talking about information overload. Let Laserfiche help you decide what to keep and what to toss. So very exciting, very relevant topic. We all have ton of content, ton of documents, ton of records throughout our organizations. And a big concern anywhere in any organization is how do you structure that content? How do you organize it? How do you decide what to keep, how long to keep it, when to destroy it, and what to do with everything? So that being the topic of today's webinar, we're also going to bring in Laserfiche into that discussion. However, before I get started, a couple housekeeping items for us. Everyone has been muted. However, please do put your questions into the question box, and I will be sure to answer those towards the end of the webinar. Also, we're going to provide slides and screenshots upon request, and the session is being recorded, so no need to take feverish notes. Just you can go ahead and review the webinar at your leisure. It's going to be posted to our YouTube channel where you can view it at any time. All right, so let's get started with today's agenda. Again, information overload and specifically focusing on records management and leveraging Laserfiche. So what is records management? Well, typically, records management is driven by a need to conform to specific regulations set in place by a governing body. In order to comply with regulations and minimize risk, records must be strictly managed. This is where the records manager comes in. It is the records manager's job to ensure that records are handled accordingly to regulations. Now, Laserfiche makes it easy and efficient to manage such records. In Laserfiche, any user who is assigned the records management privilege is considered a records manager, giving them the ability to perform records management actions. So, why records management? Well, there are a variety of reasons of implementing records management. Effective records management serves a variety of purposes and can benefit your organization in several ways. Laserfiche records management allows you to identify permanent and vital records, helping prevent important records from being lost or inadvertently destroyed. It ensures proper record-keeping practices that fulfill legislative and regulatory compliance requirements. Now, this will allow you to prove that proper and or legally required retention practices are being and have been followed. It also helps assure that proper handling of records that are mandated to be transferred are accessioned. Furthermore, it ensures records are available for an appropriate amount of time before being destroyed or accessioned or transferred. Also, it ensures records are made read-only as appropriate. This prevents inactive records from being modified. When you cut off a record in Laserfiche, it goes into read-only status, so it can no longer be modified by any other user in the system. Additionally, you can quickly locate records that need attention and ensure records are available if requested by judicial orders. And finally, I think the most important is it allows you to prevent inadvertent or unauthorized destruction of records and ensure outdated or unwanted records are destroyed at appropriate intervals. So you don't want to keep records that you no longer have to keep. An additional benefit in this specific scenario is that preventing storage space from being used for unnecessary record keeping. You're able to free up storage space because obviously you are destroying records that you no longer have to keep. All right. So what is a records management system? Well, It allows you to distinguish non-record content from records. It allows you to apply required retention periods to records, also known as retention schedules. It allows you to identify the owners of records, determine that a chain of custody and proper audit trail both exist for each record. It assists in e-discovery issues and applying legal holds to records when needed. It allows you to manage the proper and timely disposition of records. Additionally, it allows you to develop and administer record policy and procedures for electronic or paper records. And finally, it allows you to preserve records throughout their life cycle. And this is really what records management is about. It's managing the life cycle of a record and within our environment. So from the time the record is created, from the time it's imported into a record system, from the time that the record is cut off, where it's put into read-only status and no longer can be modified, to the retention period starting after the cutoff. And then once the retention period has completed, the final disposition will take place in terms of document destruction or transfer or cession. So what are the differences between records management and document management? Well, in Laserfiche, you can do both. And that's really the beauty of Laserfiche. You can leverage Laserfiche to not only manage your documents and all of your various content, which can come in the form of PDF documents, image files, electronic documents such as Microsoft Word, Microsoft Excel, as well as emails. Really any content can be managed in Laserfiche as a document management system. But also Laserfiche is a very powerful records management system, allowing you to apply records retention schedules to records that have specific retention periods. The common goal, though, of the two systems is really business continuity. And that really is a concern of what happens and how do you mitigate the impact of a natural or some kind of other disaster. You know, if something happens to your physical records, how do you come back from that as a business? And really, that's the big concern of any organization, and leveraging a powerful document and records management system is really the direction that everybody should go. Let's look at some of the differences between document management and records management. So essentially, a document management system is most concerned with efficiency. You have users that just want to go in there, they want to find the document that they're looking for, view it, and get out as quick as possible. That's all that they are there to do. Now, compare that to a records management system, where the biggest goal essentially is compliance. You want to make sure you are being compliant with regulatory requirements. A records manager is most concerned with such factors. Make sure all of the records retention policies are being followed, that records are destroyed at the appropriate intervals. So that's the key difference there. Now, in a document management system, the information there is mostly comprised of transient content. Now, transient content, you can think of that as perhaps invoices that are signed, sent to an approver, older drafts are discarded or revised, and they are passing through an approval process within the document management system. So it's content that's changing, it's transient. Now, in the records management system, we're most concerned with historical content. We want to see the status of a record as determined by different phases of its record life cycle. We want to know in what stage of that life cycle is that record in. Is it still an active record? Has it been cut off and it's now inactive? Has retention started? And what is the disposition once retention is reached? So that's the difference with the records management system. The other two differences is that a document management system is mostly content driven. So its document repositories are usually organized with the needs of general users in mind, finding documents by keywords or title, keeping all documents together by employee or project. So essentially, we are more focused here on presenting content as required by users of the system to make their job and their life easier. In a records management system, it's more context driven. That means record managers care more about document types, such as insurance records, employee applications, so on and so forth, than the actual words that are in the documents. And as a result, retention schedules are the catalyst for records-related activity, as different types of records must be kept for different lengths of time and under different conditions. So again, talking about records retention policies. And that's really the main difference. And within the two types of system, however, with Laserfiche, they can all reside in one powerful document and records management system. So talking about Laserfiche records management, well, how do we deploy that in Laserfiche and what's required? So in order to implement records management in Laserfiche, the Laserfiche records management module is required. Now, this is available as an add-on to all of the legacy platforms and also the new Avante and Rio platforms. It is an add-on. For clients that are currently on the subscription or cloud licensing, Laserfiche records management is included in the business tier, and it's available as an add-on on the professional tier. Additionally, the Laserfiche audit trail is required to implement Laserfiche records management. Laserfiche Advanced Audit Trail allows you to audit every single records action taken in Laserfiche by records managers. So you can tell, exactly by who and at what time was a specific record cut off, was a specific record destroyed, so on and so forth. So Laserfiche Advanced Audit Trail is required to complete the records management system. And this is also an add-on to Legacy and Avante systems. It is included on Rio systems. For subscription or cloud clients, it is included in the business tier and available as an add-on for the professional tier. Now, finally, for some automations within Laserfiche records management, automations in terms of automatically filing records into appropriate record series within Laserfiche, and automating some additional tasks of assigning records retention schedules to our records in Laserfiche, cutting off records, placing holds on records in Laserfiche. For that functionality to be automated, Laserfiche workflow is required. Laserfiche workflow is an add-on on the legacy platforms. However, it is included on Avante and Rio systems. Also, for subscription or cloud clients, Laserfiche workflow is included in the professional and business tiers. So that's everything that's required to deploy Laserfiche records management from the software standpoint. Now, also professional services will come into play, and that's where CDI comes in as your Laserfiche value-added provider. We would build your entire Laserfiche records retention structure within the Laserfiche environment and help you design best practices for managing and maintaining those records within Laserfiche. All right, so let's get into some examples of records management within Laserfiche. So what we're going to do here, we're going to go into our Laserfiche repository here. Now you will notice that there are various folders in my repository, and you will notice there is some difference between the folders that reside towards the top of the repository. These are our record series filing folders, so they look like file folders essentially. They will normally reside towards the top of your Laserfiche repository. And these are the records series. So in our demo repository here, I have various record series. So I have city clerk records, city council, finance records, so on and so forth. For today's demonstration, I'm going to be working with the police records series here. All of the additional folders here are just standard document management type folders with various documents and content in there that doesn't have a records retention schedule or a policy assigned to those documents. Everything that is a record in Laserfiche is going to live in our record series here. So how do we get documents into our record series? Well, with the automation, with Laserfiche workflow, we can make this process efficient and pretty straightforward for our end users. So here we have an auto file folder where we can simply drag and drop records. Now I know in this example, I am dragging and dropping in a police record, specifically a taser use report. Now I have a randomly named document on my desktop here that I'm going to drag and drop into my auto file folder. The system, specifically the Laserfiche workflow, will be able to recognize what type of a document or a record it is in this case, correctly name it, and file it into the appropriate record series and apply the appropriate records retention schedule to this record. So let's do that now. Very simple drag and drop here. We're not going to bother assigning a template or doing any manual indexing for this process. We're not even going to bother with naming this document because the system's going to do this for us. So let's just click OK. And we'll let workflow work for a bit here. You'll notice it was renamed. And now it should move out of this folder and get moved into the appropriate record series because this is a record. All right, it's been moved. So now if we go into our police records series under taser use report for 2022, you'll notice our record is here now. If we go and click on records property, you will notice that the system has automatically applied our cutoff instructions. Cutoff instructions are when this are to be applied to this record, making this record essentially ready for the retention to start. So in 24 months, this record will become inactive. It will be cut off, and then the retention of 3 years will start on this record. And the final disposition for this record will be destruction. So the system has automatically, it has named this document for us, and of course, naming conventions. It has put it into the appropriate records folder and has started our records retention. All right, so that's a simple import into Laserfiche in terms of records. Now, if we go into our parent folders, we can see that the folder here has inherited the rights of the parent folder. So essentially here, what we have is our cutoff instructions and our retention schedule is applied to this record series folder. And then all of our record subfolders inherit those same record properties. Okay. All right, so we've done an import into our Laserfiche record series. Now let's look at running a report for documents that are ready for destruction. This is an additional automation built into Laserfiche, specifically utilizing the workflow engine. So we've set up a simple generate report business process here. And I can go ahead and click this here, and this is going to generate a report of records that are ready for destruction. I can click yes, and I'm going to get an email within a few seconds here of all the records that are ready for destruction. So let's go into my email client. And we'll give this a second to work. There we go. So another benefit of Laserfiche records management with workflow is allowing us to have the system run searches for us specific to records retention periods. So in this case, I asked the system to email me all of my records that are eligible for destruction. So the system can send me this very clean, very neat report of all of the records that are ready to be destroyed. I can see them all here. I have various columns presented to me. This can be fully customized. Additional details can be presented to your records managers. This can be sent on a scheduled basis. It can be also sent ad hoc, just as I did now. Now, this list here has links into the specific document. So if we click this specific record here, we're going to get into the Laserfiche web client interface to be able to view this record and those records properties. So this is our record here, and under our records tab here, we can see the various details of this record, and we can tell that this record is eligible to be destroyed. So we can go ahead and simply click on destroy, and this record will be deleted out of our document records management system. However, you do have the option of keeping the record metadata in the repository, just deleting the physical record. That's important because if you have to go back and prove your records policies, you want to run an audit trail of your records that have been destroyed, you want to keep that metadata so you have a record of when and by whom that record was destroyed. But you can simply click destroy here, and this record will be deleted out of your system. All right, so that's a simple report that we could have Laserfiche workflow generate for us and present to us in an easy to access, easy to use email format. Let's go back into the Laserfiche repository here. We have additional capability here with Laserfiche workflow. Under our metadata tab for this specific record that we just imported into our record series earlier, we can also apply specific tags that trigger specific processes. So for example, if I tag this document denied for destruction, what this is going to do, it's going to have the Laserfiche workflow engine create a hold on this record. Essentially, a hold on a record will prevent it from going into retention, and then obviously for disposition will prevent it from going into destruction. So if I click OK here, Laserfiche will now put a hold on this record. So if I go into my hold actions here, I can go ahead and view my holds on this specific record here. So here is my hold with the specific reason for that hold date. Also, we can assign a due date for this hold as well. If we want to add additional holds, we can do that. If we want to remove holds, we can go ahead and do that here as well. So in Laserfiche, there's various functions within the Laserfiche records management repository structure. You're applying your records retention policies to your records as they come in. You're applying the records retention schedules, as well as allowing you to cut off these records and start those records retention periods. And then also enforcing the proper and timely destruction of your records, whether you're doing it manually or having the Laserfiche workflow engine assist with that process. That's all fully customizable within Laserfiche. Now let's look into our thin client interface here again, and I wanted to show you some of the other functionality that's available here. Specifically under our records management tab here, this allows us to run very quick and very simple searches for records within our repository. So I can simply request what type of a record search I want to run. So for example, I want to see all of my records that are eligible for cutoff. I can hit run search, and it's going to give me all of my records that are eligible to be cut off. And again, cutting off a record just means it's becoming an inactive record. It's placed into read-only status, and the retention period is starting. So to cut off a record, then we can go ahead and just click it here. And in our right pane here, we can go ahead and cut off this record here by just clicking cut off here. So another simple way of cutting off records and starting that records retention period. All right, so that's a simple cutoff search. Now for records eligible for disposition, same idea here. You can run that search very quickly. We have 6 records. We can go ahead and select our record here and click destroy from within Laserfiche web client interface here, allowing us to easily and effectively destroy that record once it's eligible for destruction, once that retention period has reached disposition. So there's additional searching functionality here. There are additional search filters within this interface as well if you want to get more specific in terms of records management type searches. There are various search filters within the records management functionality in Laserfiche. So specific cutoffs, disposition holds, record series properties, also searches for vital records within Laserfiche. Vital records in Laserfiche are records that are extremely important to the functioning of your organization. The records that you can't live without, your business cannot function without. And those records are typically reviewed on a scheduled basis. So for example, you may have some procedures and policies of your business. Those are vital records, but those may change at some point. So with vital records in Laserfiche, you can schedule review intervals for vital records to review those records, make sure those records are still appropriate and those policies and correct policies and procedures are being followed. All right, so let's look at some of the behind the scenes of Laserfiche records management. So I'm going to show you here in our Laserfiche repository administration console, some of the functionality here in terms of users. How do you allow a user to have records management functionality or privileges? So for example, I will select myself here. And under our rights here, under privileges, here we have the records management privileges. So when this checkbox is selected, this makes this user, in this case myself, technically a records manager within Laserfiche. So that will then allow them to do the record cutoffs, do the holds, and do additional records functions within the Laserfiche records environment. In terms of setting up your records repository, under our records tab here we have our various records properties. So we have review cycles. So this is specific to those vital records I mentioned earlier. You do want to have those review cycles for those vital records, and you have various options so that you can schedule these review cycles to run. So for example, bi-monthly, yearly, so on and so forth. Here are our events. So these are the cutoff events when records are cut off. So there are specific events you can select when a specific record is cut off. Under our cutoff instructions, this is what happens when that record is cut off. how soon does the records retention period start? So for example, we have various cutoff instructions here. For example, when a claim is closed, this is what happens when that claim is closed. This is how soon that record cuts off. So these are the cutoff instructions here for this specific record. All right, we also have retention schedules here. So these are the retention schedules of how long records are retained in their retention period and what happens after the retention period is reached. So for example, here we have, let's just go to the 7 years. Here's what happens after 7-year period. Keep for 7 years, then ascend to final location. So you can go ahead and set up these retention schedules for your various records in Laserfiche. And then as records are imported into the record series, they will be applied these various retention schedules, whether or automatically through the workflow engine or manually by end user or records manager input in within Laserfiche. So that's a basic overview of setting up Laserfiche and within the Laserfiche environment here. I also wanted to highlight Laserfiche Audit Trail specific to records and within the system. So if we go into our Audit Trail module here, we have the ability to audit records management actions and within the repository. So for example, here under our event types, we have various records management actions that we can audit on, run reports on. So here we have, for example, let's do cut off a record folder. We want to see when records have been cut off. So we can select that event, click add. Now we can here run a search on specific dates or just go back maybe, I don't know, let's go back 200 days here. We can select a specific user or just do the everyone group here and click apply. And here is our audit report of the records that have been cut off. You have a very easy to understand interface here. You can see what user cut off a record, what time, and any additional metadata here in these columns can be displayed that's requested. There are additional columns here that can be picked in terms of display. So if you wanted to see additional information within columns, that can be selected here and added to this view. This report can also then be exported and saved in Excel for additional purposes if needed. So this is the audit trail in Laserfiche. Again, this is included once you deploy Laserfiche Records Management module. The audit trail is a required component that comes with the module itself. All right, so that covers essentially everything I wanted to show today. I'd like to see if there are any questions now. Looks like we don't have any questions. If you think of anything, please put it in the question box there, and I will get to those. Let's see, for closing, I have a couple more slides here. Some of our resources here. Here's our CDI's website, as well as that link to our YouTube channel. We have all of our webinars posted to our YouTube channel after completion. And there's a ton of other Laserfiche video and really great content on how to get the best out of your Laserfiche system. So please do take a look at that. And also my contact information is here. So please give me a call, send me an email if you have questions on records in Laserfiche, how to work with records, how to set up record retention schedules. Really, if you just need help within the Laserfiche environment, we're here to help. And the links to some of our additional emails for the various departments are provided here as well. So it looks like we don't have any questions here. So again, I'd like to thank everybody for joining today, and have a great day. We'll see you at the next webinar.